No-soap radio. No-soap radio is a peculiar form of anti-humor that plays with the concept of social conformity. The joke typically involves telling a nonsensical story with an equally nonsensical punchline, often ending with the phrase, "no soap, radio." The humor doesn't lie in the content of the joke itself, but in the social experiment it creates. The real target of this type of humor is not the listener, but the unwitting participants who pretend to understand or laugh along with the joke. It exposes our tendency to go along with the crowd, even when we don't understand what's happening. This form of humor serves as a commentary on social pressure and our desire to fit in. No-soap radio jokes often rely on accomplices who are in on the joke and laugh at the punchline, encouraging others to follow suit. The reveal comes when someone admits they don't get it, leading to an explanation of the experiment. This type of humor can be seen as a playful critique of social dynamics and a way to encourage independent thinking. While it may seem mean-spirited, no-soap radio can actually serve as a valuable tool for understanding group psychology and the power of social influence. It reminds us to question things we don't understand and to be comfortable admitting when we're confused. Click subscribe to this channel to get more topics you love. Anti-jokes. Anti-jokes are a form of humor that subverts expectations by deliberately avoiding a traditional punchline. They play with the structure of jokes, often setting up a familiar premise but then delivering a straightforward or mundane conclusion instead of the expected humorous twist. The humor in anti-jokes comes from the tension between expectation and reality. When we hear the setup for a joke, our brains automatically start preparing for a clever punchline. Anti-jokes deliberately frustrate this expectation, creating a cognitive dissonance that can be surprisingly funny. The absence of humor becomes the source of humor itself. Anti-jokes often rely on timing and delivery to be effective. The speaker must convincingly set up the joke as if it were a traditional one, making the anticlimactic punchline all the more unexpected. This type of humor can be seen as a commentary on joke structure itself, highlighting how much of our laughter comes from anticipation and pattern recognition. Examples of anti-jokes include, "Why did the man fall off his bike? Because someone threw a refrigerator at him." Or, "What's worse than finding a worm in your apple? The Holocaust." These jokes work on multiple levels, first by setting up a familiar joke format, then by providing an unexpectedly literal or dark answer. Anti-jokes can be a powerful tool for deconstructing humor itself, making us question why we find certain things funny. They remind us that humor often lies in the unexpected, even when that unexpected thing is the absence of a joke altogether. Sarcasm. Sarcasm is a sharp, often critical form of humor that relies on saying the opposite of what is meant. It's characterized by the use of irony to mock or convey contempt, often delivered with a specific tone of voice that signals the speaker's true intent. Sarcasm is a complex form of communication that requires both the speaker and the listener to understand the context and subtext of the conversation. The power of sarcasm lies in its ability to highlight absurdities or criticize without direct confrontation. It often serves as a social lubricant, allowing people to express frustration or disagreement in a way that's more palatable than outright criticism. However, sarcasm can also be a double-edged sword, as it can be easily misinterpreted or seen as harmful if not used carefully. Sarcasm requires a certain level of emotional intelligence and social awareness to use effectively. It often relies on shared knowledge or experiences between the speaker and listener. This shared understanding is what allows the true meaning to be conveyed despite the words saying something different. In written communication, sarcasm can be particularly challenging to convey, leading to the development of indicators like the /s tag in online discussions. The difficulty in detecting sarcasm in written form has even become a challenge in the field of artificial intelligence, as machines struggle to understand this nuanced form of human communication. Sarcasm, when used skillfully, can be a powerful tool for social commentary, humor, and even building relationships. However, its potential for misunderstanding means it should be used judiciously, especially in sensitive situations or with people who may not be familiar with this form of humor. Slapstick. Slapstick is a form of physical comedy that relies on exaggerated, often violent actions and situations for humorous effect. It's characterized by broad, unsubtle humor that appeals to our most basic instincts for laughter. Slapstick often involves pratfalls, physical mishaps, and comical violence that, in real life, would be painful or dangerous but in the context of performance becomes amusing. The roots of slapstick can be traced back to ancient theater and commedia dell'arte, but it found its greatest expression in early silent films. Comedians like Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and the Three Stooges elevated slapstick to an art form, using their bodies as instruments of humor. The absence of dialogue in these early films meant that physical comedy had to carry the entire weight of the humor. Slapstick's appeal lies in its universality and immediacy. Unlike verbal humor, which can be limited by language barriers or cultural references, slapstick can be understood and appreciated across cultures. It taps into our instinctive responses to physical predicaments, eliciting laughter through a combination of surprise, schadenfreude, and relief that it's not happening to us. While often dismissed as lowbrow, slapstick at its best requires immense skill and timing. The performers must have excellent body control and an understanding of how to make dangerous stunts look both real and funny. Modern slapstick continues in animated cartoons, certain types of sitcoms, and physical comedians who carry on the tradition. Slapstick serves as a reminder of our physicality in an increasingly digital world. It allows us to laugh at the vulnerabilities and limitations of the human body, providing a cathartic release from the stresses of daily life. Despite its apparent simplicity, slapstick remains a powerful and enduring form of comedy. Dark humor. Dark humor, also known as black comedy, is a style of comedy that makes light of subject matter typically considered taboo, serious, or painful. This form of humor often deals with topics such as death, disease, violence, or other tragic events, finding comedy in situations that are normally viewed as distressing or off-limits. The appeal of dark humor lies in its ability to confront difficult subjects through the lens of comedy. It serves as a coping mechanism, allowing people to process and discuss uncomfortable truths in a more palatable way. Dark humor often challenges social norms and pushes the boundaries of what's considered acceptable, forcing us to confront our discomfort and examine why certain topics are deemed off-limits. Psychologically, dark humor can be seen as a form of emotional release. By laughing at the darkest aspects of life, we momentarily gain a sense of control over them. It's a way of facing our fears and anxieties head-on, using laughter as a shield against the harshness of reality. However, dark humor walks a fine line and can easily cross into offensive territory if not handled skillfully. The effectiveness of dark humor often depends on context and delivery. What might be considered hilarious in one setting could be deeply offensive in another. It requires a keen understanding of the audience and the situation. Dark humor can be a powerful tool for social commentary, allowing comedians and writers to address serious issues in a way that captures attention and provokes thought. While controversial, dark humor plays an important role in our cultural landscape. It allows us to explore uncomfortable truths, challenge societal taboos, and find moments of levity in even the darkest situations. When used responsibly, it can be a powerful means of confronting difficult realities and fostering resilience in the face of life's challenges. White humor. White humor, also known as clean humor or family-friendly comedy, is a style of comedy that avoids controversial topics, profanity, and adult themes. This form of humor aims to be universally acceptable and inoffensive, making it suitable for all ages and most social situations. White humor relies on wordplay, situational comedy, and gentle observational humor to elicit laughter. The charm of white humor lies in its ability to unite audiences without resorting to shock value or divisive topics. It often celebrates the everyday, finding humor in common experiences and shared frustrations that everyone can relate to. White humor can be surprisingly sophisticated, requiring clever writing and precise timing to land effectively without the crutch of edgy content. Comedians specializing in white humor face the unique challenge of being funny without controversy. They must craft jokes that are simultaneously clever and broadly accessible, appealing to a wide range of ages and backgrounds. This often results in humor that highlights absurdities in daily life or plays with language in creative ways. White humor plays a crucial role in entertainment, particularly in family programming, corporate events, and public spaces. It allows for light-hearted enjoyment without the risk of offense, making it a safe choice for diverse audiences. However, critics argue that it can sometimes lack depth or avoid important issues in its quest for universal acceptability. Despite its reputation for mildness, white humor can be a powerful tool for bringing people together. It reminds us of our shared experiences and the joy of simple laughter. In a world often divided by controversy, white humor offers a refreshing respite and a chance to find common ground through shared amusement. Dry humor. Dry humor, also known as deadpan comedy, is characterized by its understated delivery and lack of obvious emotion. This style of humor relies on the contrast between the seriousness of the delivery and the absurdity of the content. Practitioners of dry humor often maintain a straight face while delivering jokes, adding to the comedic effect. The power of dry humor lies in its subtlety and intelligence. It often requires the audience to think critically about what's being said, as the humor isn't immediately apparent. This type of comedy frequently employs irony and sarcasm, but without the exaggerated tone typically associated with sarcastic remarks. Dry humor can be particularly effective in social commentary, as it allows comedians to address serious topics in a seemingly casual manner. The apparent nonchalance of the delivery can make pointed observations more palatable, allowing difficult truths to be communicated without seeming preachy or confrontational. One of the challenges of dry humor is that it can be easily misunderstood or missed entirely by those unfamiliar with the style. It requires a certain level of shared context between the comedian and the audience. When successful, however, dry humor can create a strong sense of connection among those who get the joke. Dry humor is often associated with British comedy, though it's employed by comedians worldwide. It's frequently used in sitcoms and literature, where the contrast between serious situations and deadpan reactions can create memorable comedic moments. The effectiveness of dry humor often lies in what's left unsaid, inviting the audience to fill in the gaps. Satire. Satire is a form of humor that uses wit and irony to criticize or expose human vices, follies, and shortcomings. It often targets social and political issues, using humor as a vehicle to provoke thought and potentially inspire change. Satire can range from gentle mockery to biting criticism, depending on the intent of the satirist. The power of satire lies in its ability to make serious points in an entertaining way. By using humor, satirists can address sensitive topics that might be too uncomfortable or controversial to discuss directly. This approach can make complex issues more accessible and engaging to a wider audience. Satire often employs techniques such as exaggeration and absurdity to highlight the flaws in its target. It may create fictional scenarios that mirror real-world situations, allowing audiences to see familiar problems from a new perspective. The best satire combines humor with insight, making people laugh while also making them think. One of the challenges of satire is striking the right balance between humor and criticism. If the satire is too subtle, the message may be lost. If it's too heavy-handed, it might alienate the audience. Effective satire requires a deep understanding of both the subject matter and the audience. Satire has a long history, dating back to ancient Greek and Roman literature. In modern times, It's found in various media, including literature, television, film, and political cartoons. Shows like The Daily Show and publications like The Onion have popularized contemporary satirical commentary, using humor to engage audiences with current events and social issues.